الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله الناصح الأمين. اللهم صل على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد. الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام والسنة. الحمد لله حمدا حمدا. We continue going over some important lessons, reflections on important matters in light of the Qur'an and Sunnah. And we are focusing on 10 traits of good character. In this section, in this portion of the class, we are focusing on 10 traits or 10 aspects of good character. And we have reached the fourth characteristic of good character, the fourth characteristic of good traits, good behavior, the fourth characteristic of good manners, and that is related to speech. That is related to speech, to kalam, and the manner in which we talk to others and how we are when talking to others. The author, the musannif, wafaqahullah, he says, الرابع, and fourthly, تكلم بالطيب القول في خير. He says in that we should speak with good speech. We should speak with good, from good speech, يعني from good statements. واخفض صوتك متمهلا في حديثك. And we should lower our voice and we should speak in a moderate, good way. In a moderate way, at a moderate speed, in a good way, yani of speaking, using this moderation in the speed of our speech. وانصت لمن كلمك مقبلا عليه. And we should draw silent and we should pay attention to the one who is speaking to us, and we should turn in attention towards them. And we should turn in attention towards them. وَلَا تُقَاطِعْهُ, and do not cut them off. Do not cut them off. وَلَا تَتَقَدَّمْ بَيْنَ يَدِ الْأَكْبَرِ بِالْكَلَامِ, and do not proceed in speaking in the presence of one who is older than you, or one who is greater than you, be it in status, knowledge, or otherwise, in speech. So if there's one who is older or one who has more knowledge or their position and status is of such, then we should not speak in their presence, before them, putting ourselves in front of them when it comes to speech. Now, this is of tremendous importance that we look at these characteristics, because like all of the characteristics of good behavior, of good character, all good mannerisms, it is that is going to take effort. There are going to be some characteristics that an individual is naturally disposed to them, right? There are going to be certain good characteristics that are typically from a person's good character. And those characteristics obviously are characteristics that an individual would not have to put a lot of practice into. But then there are other characteristics that from goodness that might be actually contrary to how we are as individuals, right? And these are the characteristics that we're going to have to train ourselves to be upon them. We're going to have to work hard and acclimate ourselves to adopting these mannerisms and this good character and good behavior. So it is incumbent that we all take a vested interest in enhancing and enriching our manners, that we take a vested interest in enhancing and enriching our behavior and the way that we interact with individuals, the way that we deal with people, so on and so forth. It will require effort, and none of us are there, in the sense that there is no one from amongst us who isn't in need of trying to advance and trying to enhance and to better themselves as relates to character. All of us are in need of improvement. All of us are works in progress. So we have to realize that, and we have to strive to better ourselves, and we have to strive to increase and hold on to the good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to accomplish and given us the success in accomplishing thus far and up until this point. We have to capitalize on that, and we have to safeguard that bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. So with that, the musannif, waffaqahullah, he mentions, he says, الأدب الرابع من الآداب العشرة, the fourth characteristic, the fourth trait of good character from the 10 traits and characteristics of good character that he presents in this tremendously beneficial work. He mentions, he says, وهو يتعلق بأدب الكلام, and it is connected to the mannerisms when speaking. It is connected to the mannerisms when speaking. Naam. And he mentions, he says, وَفِيهِ سَبْعُ مَسَائِل, and there are 7 affairs, there are 7 different topics or subtopics that are related to it. Naam, 7 different issues that he's going to highlight as relates to speaking and the proper etiquette and the proper mannerisms when it comes to speaking. He says, فَالْمَسْأَلَةُ الْأُولَى, and the first of these masail, the first of these issues, في قوله, is inside of the statement of the author, تَكَلَّمْ بِالطَّيِّبِ الْقَوْلِ فِي خَيْرٍ, and speak with good speech and good statements. Yani that when you speak, make sure you speak with that which is good. That which is good. نعم. وَالطَّيِّبُ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ هُوَ الطَّاهِرُ السَّالِمُ مِنَ الْخُبْثِ, and what is meant by good from speech, then it is that speech that is clean, that speech that is good, is wholesome, and it is that speech that is free from any type of filth. It is that speech that is free from any type of filth. Now, from this standpoint, it will be clearly seen that any type of use of profanity or foul language is totally out the window. This is not an option, because this does not enter into good speech. Anything from profanity, foul and vulgar language, then this is thrown out of the park. This is not an option, because this is not from good speech. It is not from those speech, or it's not from that speech that is free from filth, free from khubuth. Naam. So it is incumbent that when we speak well. Wal khair, and what is good. Naam. Because a person may come and say, well, good is relative. What is good to this one is not good to that one. What is good to these is not good to those, so on and so forth. That good is relative. Now, a person may launch this argument. However, we have a frame of reference, wallah alhamd. We have a measuring stick, wallah alhamd. We have a matrix that governs our life, wallah alhamd. And that is what? That is the Qur'an, and that is the Sunnah. Naam. So the Shaykh, he mentions, he says, al-khayru huwa ma rughiba fihi shar'an aw urfan. And the good, what is good and categorized as good, is that which is encouraged. That which is encouraged inside of the legislation, and that which is encouraged inside of the tradition. Now, that which is encouraged legislatively and culturally. Naam. And remember, as aforementioned, cultural, what we know is good culturally are those things that do not contradict the legislation. So those things that are culturally good, those things that are culturally acceptable, so on and so forth, then these are those things that do not contradict the legislation, and that's how we know and we are able to determine what is good from what is bad. نعم. طيب. فالعبد مأمور في منطقه بأمرين. So therefore, an individual, they are commanded with two things as relates to their speech. So when they talk, they are commanded with two affairs. And I want everyone to pay attention to this. And bithnillahi ta'ala, if you don't have it already, then I want everyone to have a pen, have a paper, have a writing utensil, whatever you like best to write and to take notes, bithnillahi ta'ala, so that you can get each one of these down. Okay? So the first affair is dealing with speaking good and speaking with speech that does not entail any type of filth, right? And when it comes to speaking, that it is upon the slave, he's commanded with two things. If you're going to make a statement, right? If you're going to speak, if you're going to open your mouth, then there are two affairs that will govern what will come out of it, or if anything will come out of it, right? And that is, as it could be found in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that these two affairs that are linked to speech or the lack thereof, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wa yawmil akhir falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut." Whoever believes, the Prophet ﷺ, he said what means, whoever believes in Allah and the last day, then let them speak good or be quiet. Whoever believes, whoever truly believes in Allah and the last day, then let them speak good or let them be quiet. This hadith is mutafiqun alayh, has been collected by Al-Bukhari and Muslim, rahimahumullahu ta'ala. So therefore, in this hadith, we find the affairs that are linked to speech or the lack thereof. We find that which will govern whether or not we make a statement, and if we make a statement, what that statement will entail, or whether or not we withhold from issuing a statement and making a statement. Now, so if we are going to, فَأَحَدُنَا يُؤْمَرُ إِذَا تَكَلَّمَ. So one of us is commanded, if they're going to speak, أَن يَقُولَ خَيْرًا, that they have to speak good. They have to speak with that which is good. They have to say something that is good. And saying something that is good, we have to look at it. It's not just saying something that is good within itself, right? It's not saying something that is good and true within itself, but it's also saying something that is good, that is true within itself, in a situation that will lead to good, in a situation that the repercussions of that statement will be good, right? If the repercussions of a statement will be bad, if it will make a situation worse, even if it is true, even if it is right and exact, we don't say it. Now, we don't say it. So the measuring stick isn't just on the speech and the statement and the utterance itself, but also it is on what will be the fruits that will spring forward and spring forth from that statement. If the fruits that come from that statement are good, the statement is good, and the fruits that will result from that statement is good, then we say it. Now, but if the truth, if said in that state, in that situation, will cause to a harm, then we don't say it. Now, of course, this is in the case where we have the option to say it or to not say it. There are certain situations where the truth has to be said. Now, the truth has to be said, and in those cases, the truth has to be said. Now, but in the event where we don't have to necessarily utter a statement, even though it may be true, then we don't say it. And that is if we're going to say something that maliciously to hurt someone's feelings, even though it may be true, even though our observation may be true. But if there will be no benefit in making that statement, if there is nothing gained from that statement except for hurting a person's feelings, then we don't say it even though it's true. Then we don't say it even though the statement that we're going to say is not a lie, right? Then we don't say it. If there's a person and they are concerned with their weight, I'll give you an example. If there's a person and they're concerned with their weight, for example, right? Then we don't say unto them statements about their weight. We don't mention negative statements about their weight that will hurt their feelings. And then we can't use as a justification, but it's true. What I said was true. Look at them. What I said is true. No, this is not correct. This is not right. If there is nothing to be gained except for hurting a person's feeling, and I'm saying something to be gained very loosely because that is not a gain that someone's feelings are hurt. That is not a gain, right? But however, if there is nothing that's going to come out of that statement except that we hurt someone's feelings, then we can't say and look at it and say, but it's true, it's right and exact, so I can say it, right? No, you cannot say it. If you're going to speak with that which is good, because it's good within itself. It will lead to good. Its repercussions are good. That makes sense. Like the second affair, as relates to speech, as we learn from this hadith, is that what أو يحفظ منطقه فلا يتكلم بشيء, is that an individual, if he doesn't have anything good to say, then he would withhold his statement, and therefore he won't say anything. He'll be quiet. Or she won't say anything. She'll be quiet. I just want you to reflect on this. How many relationships would have been saved? How many marriages would have been saved? So on and so forth. If people just knew when to speak, what to say, and when to be quiet and not say anything. The second affair, as relates to the mannerisms and the etiquette of speaking, the Shaykh he mentions, he says, وَالْمَسْأَلَةُ الثَّانِيَةُ فِي قَوْلِهِ وَاخْفِضْ صَوْتَكَ. He said, and the second affair can be found in his statement, and lower your voice. والصوت, الصوت وعاء الكلام الذي يدفع به إلى الخلق. And the voice, then this is the carrier, right? This is the carrier of the speech in which it will reach to the people. This is the carrier of the speech in which is put out there so it reach to the people. And we've been commanded to what, or yani, is what wakhfidhu, yani khafidhu, to lower it, to lower your voice when you're speaking. Naam, wa huwa al-hamsu bihi wa tarku raf'ah, and it is to lower it, to speak very moderately in a very low level or tone or the like, and not to raise it, not to raise the voice. Now, of course, we're talking one ordinarily, okay? So if it's ordinarily speaking and there's no reason, there's nothing that necessitates that the voice is raised, then speak in a very moderate, natural way. Then speak in a very natural way, not raising the voice, not yelling. Now, if there's a situation that necessitates yelling or to the raising of one's voice, be it due to a lot of background noise, the ambient noise around you is very loud, and in order for the person that you're speaking to hear you, then you have to raise your voice slightly, then that's something different. If a person is on a construction site, for example, or if they're in a server room and the fans are blowing loud and the AC is loud and so on and so forth, and the ambient noise is quite elevated, then you have to speak a little louder so the person can hear you, right? So this is fine, and this is not what is being spoken about. Also, there are individuals who naturally they have loud voices. There are individuals who naturally they have loud voices, and they don't intend any harm by it when they speak in a manner that they speak, but that is just their natural voice. And certain situations, circumstances like this, and this is not what is being referred to. What is being referred to is lower or speak in a natural way. Each one of us knows what it means to raise their voice. Each one of us knows what it means to raise their voice and what is raising their voice to them. So generally, don't raise your voice if you don't have to. don't raise your voice unnecessarily. Now, so this is what is meant and intended here, that when we speak, secondly, then we should not raise our voice unnecessarily. If there's a case where we have to, then that's different. Then you raise your voice. But outside of those instances where you have to raise your voice, speaking in a loud, obnoxious manner, this is not from good behavior. This is not from good character. Now, the third point, the third etiquette as it relates to speaking, the Shaykh he mentions, he says, وَمَسْأَلَةَ الثَّالِثَةِ, the third affair, في قوله متهملا في حديثك, is inside of his statement, and to be متحمل. Now, متحمل in your speech, and he's going to explain what that means. إذا تحدث العبد سن له أن يتحمل في حديثه. That if a person is going to speak, then it is it is from the Sunnah, for him, that they speak in a way that is moderate, meaning with a moderate speed. نعم. والمتحمل التأني, it is to have that moderation, when an individual is speaking, and to speak in such a manner فيخرج كلامه شيئا فشيئا, that his speech comes out bit by bit. Now, so that a person, they don't speak super duper fast, right? And at the same time, they have to be understanding to the situation and to the audience. They don't speak super duper slow at the same time as well, but they speak in a manner that is good manner. It's not too fast, and it's not extremely slow where it becomes annoying for the person listening, so on and so forth, right? And there's a lot of benefits that are related to it. Now, of course, we're talking about speaking in a natural way, because again, there are people who they tend to speak fast now, and that's their natural way of speaking, that they speak very fast, okay? And then there may be people who they speak more on the slower side, and that is their natural way of speaking, more on the slower side. So what it's meant for is that you speak in a manner that will be understood culturally, that will be a moderate good manner, right? There will be a moderate good manner, even though at times you may speed up or you may slow down and so on and so forth. But typically and generally, you try to speak in a manner that allows you to do the two following things, because there are two benefits that come from speaking in this moderate way. Then when it comes to speaking at this moderate rate, there are two advantages that come from this. The Shaykh he mentions, he says, وَمَنْفَعَةُ التَّهَمُّلِ فِي الْكَلَامِ أَمْران. And there are two affairs that are linked, two benefits that are linked to speaking in this at the moderate speed. Two benefits. Now, so again, I want you to keep these benefits in mind, because if a person typically or naturally they speak fast, you want to make sure that the two benefits are here. So it's going to be relative as far as the speed or moderation is going to vary depending on person to person, but you want to make sure that at the level and the rate that you talk, for you as an individual, that you're able to accomplish these two benefits. The first benefit, حصول الاحتراز المتكلم في كلامه فلا يخرج شيئا من الكلام إلا وقد وزنه, is that the individual has to guard and they have to follow and examine their speech. That speaking in such a manner, that at such a rate, right, at such a speed, that it allows the individual to monitor what they're saying, to closely examine what they're saying, such as nothing will come out of their mouth except that it has been thoroughly vetted. Nothing will come out of their mouth except that it has been weighed. Now, they have vetted it, they have spoken in such a manner where their speech comes out very deliberate, where they're saying things and is very deliberate. They're not speaking at such a speed where their tongue can start to get ahead of their brain. Their tongue can start to get ahead of their brain. Like a lot of times that happens when people argue. their tongues get ahead of their brain, and they end up saying things and they regret it. And they end up saying things and they come back and say, I really didn't mean that. Meaning what? I didn't mean to say that. Right? Because maybe they meant it. Maybe they was truthful in what they said and they really meant it. But when they say that, what they intend by it is, I didn't mean to say it. I didn't mean to say that out loud. Even unfortunately, people will be so reckless in their speech. They'll say something, and then they might turn around and follow that statement up by saying, "Oh, I didn't mean to say that out loud." SubhanAllah. So try not to let your tongue get ahead of your brain. Okay, so this is one thing that is accomplished when a person, they speak at a moderate way. What is moderate for them is that it allows them to think about what they're going to say before they say it. It allows them to fully vet their statement before they put it out there in the world. Because once it's out there, that's it. You can't bring it back. It's done. Right? So that's one benefit that will happen. It's also a benefit that will happen, حصول العقل معنى كلامه, is that an individual, the intelligent individual, right, they will be able to understand the meaning of his speech. So if you're talking to someone, then the person that you're talking to is able to understand you. You're speaking at such a speed that they can understand what you're saying. They can understand the meanings that you're trying to convey. فَيُفْهَمُ عَنْهُ, so they can understand what you're saying. وَيُدْرَكُ مَا يُرِيدُ بِكَلَامِهِ, and they could fully grasp and comprehend what you intend for them to understand from your speech. Okay? So this is the other thing that is accomplished by speaking at a good speed, at a moderate speed, so that you can weigh in what you're going to say before you say it, and also so that the person that you're speaking to can fully understand what you're saying and not misunderstand you. Due to the speed in which you're talking, it's hard for them to keep up. Now, the fourth affair, as relates to the characteristics, the mannerisms, and the etiquette of speaking and having a conversation, is that في قوله, is inside of the statement of the author, وَأَنصِتْ لِمَنْ كَلَّمَكَ, and أنصت. And what is the meaning of أنصت? To have what is the meaning of this? Right? The Shaykh, he mentions, he says, بإلقاء سمعك وتوجه قلبك إليه. It means that you give them your ear, you turn your hearing attentively, and you turn your attention, you turn your heart to them, meaning that you're attentive, not just that you're listening attentively to them, and you turn your heart to them, which also will require that you draw silent, that you be quiet. So when a person is talking and you're in a conversation, that it is from good character to allow them to complete their statement, right? It's from good character to allow them to finish what they're going to say. And we can look and we can examine this word, al-insat, we can examine this word and what is intended by it as it comes in the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we learn from this, from Allah ta'ala's statement, that al-insat, then it is qadrun za'idun an al-istima', then it is an additional level upon listening. Al-istima' means to listen. It means to pay attention, to listen, right? Whereas it means to listen. Let's put it like that. Al-istima', it means that you listen. But wal-insat, then this is a degree over listening. Is a degree over listening. Allah Ta'ala, he says, وَإِذَا قُرِيَ الْقُرْآنِ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا. And when the Qur'an is recited, then listen to it and draw silent. This is generally how it's translated. Then listen attentively to it and draw silent. How does that meaning? And again, I want you to remember that the translation of the ayat of the Qur'an is a translation of the meaning of the ayah. It's not a word-for-word translation. It's not a word-for-word translation, but it's a translation of the meaning of the ayah, the meaning. And as you will come to see, without learning the Arabic language and studying the tafsir, as it comes inside of the Sunnah, by studying the tafsir, the tafsir of the Qur'an with the Qur'an, the tafsir of the Qur'an with the Sunnah, tafsir of the Qur'an with the tafsir of the Sahaba, so on and so forth. Without studying tafsir, and of course a tool from that, and at the end of the list is what is the Arabic language. Without having access to the Arabic language, you will never fully be able to understand and to appreciate the Qur'an. Now, we see a little bit of this here, or perhaps we will see a little of this here, بِإِذْنِ ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala, He says, وَإِذَا قُرِيَ الْقُرْآنُ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا. And when the Qur'an is recited, فَاسْتَمِعُوا. So now we have al-istima' وَأَنصِتُوا. And now we have al-insat. طيب, al-istima', the first thing mentioned, نعم, فَاسْتَمِعُوا, فاستماع. طيب, فالاستماع it is إلقاء سمع للمتكلم. It means to give your hearing to the person talking. This is what is meant by al-istima'. Al-istima', it means that you give your ear, you listen to the one who is talking. طيب, والإنصات, what is meant by insat, هو إلقاء السمع له وترك كلام عند كلامه. It means to listen to him or her, whoever's talking to you, right? But it also means that while you're listening to them, you refrain from talking. You don't say anything. You understand? Because there's certain situations, perhaps, that an individual could listen to what is being said and still run their mouth at the same time. And they say, well, I'm listening. I heard everything you said. I understood what you were trying to say. And if they had to, repeat it back to you what you said, they can tell you, repeat it back to you what you said. And if you ask them what you meant by a statement, they can tell you what they meant by a statement. But at the same time, they were running their mouth. They were talking. So it's possible, right, that a person could listen attentively and still talk, still say something, right? So Allah Ta'ala, He commands us to listen attentively, but also while listening attentively, and this is the benefit that perhaps we miss, because the verse is translated as listen attentively and draw silent. Listen attentively and draw silent. Now, as explained, al-istima' means to listen attentively, but what's translated as and draw silent, al-insat is to, one, listen attentively, and two, draw silent, to be quiet. So it is when a person really understands the construction of the verse, then they understand when the Qur'an is being recited, listen attentively, pay full attention to it, listening to it, and be quiet. You understand? So now it's three things here in these two words. In these two words, al-istima' wal-insat, we got three things. Listen attentively, that is what? Al-istima', listen attentively. Right. Al-insat, what does insat mean? It means listen attentively and be quiet. So when the Qur'an is recited, listen attentively, and be quiet. Three things we benefit from that. That will be lost if we just went by the translation. We'll be lost. So listen attentively, listen and pay attention, be quiet. So this is why the author, he mentioned that inside of al-insat, then it is to listen, and there is an additional aspect to it. So it is to listen and be quiet. So it is to listen with ziyadat, to listen with an additional aspect. Naam. So likewise, when someone is talking, then we are to listen and be quiet until they're done saying what they have to say. فالإنصات أعلى من الاستماع. So al-insat is a higher degree than just mere استماع. نعم. So فالإنصات أعلى من الاستماع. So I'm not going to translate that. In a sense, I'm not going to translate those two words. So insat is greater than istima'. And inshallah ta'ala, that should make total sense, right? If not, rewind it and listen again, and then it'll make total sense. Bithnillahi ta'ala. The Shaykh mentions, فَكُلُّ إِنصَاتٍ إِسْتِمَاعٌ وَزِيَادَةٌ وَلَيْسَ كُلُّ إِسْتِمَاعٍ إِنصَاتًا. He said, so every insat is istima' and an additional and something else in addition, but every istima' is not insat. The fifth aspect and issue that is linked and related to the etiquettes of speaking and having a conversation is found in his statement, مُقْبِلًا عَلَيْهِ. مُقْبِلًا عَلَيْهِ. That you turn to them, with your, that you turn to them, you face them, okay? And the like. أي مشرفا بصورتك الظاهرة من بدنك عليه, is that you turn physically towards the individual that you're speaking to. In other words, it's not from good character that a person is talking to you and then you turn your back to them, right? They're talking to you, and maybe your frame, your torso is facing them, but then you looking all this way and that way, and right? No, if someone's talking to you, then you face them and you look at them. And of course, we're talking about same sex, the person of the same sex talking to you. Then you turn to them and you look at them, you address them. Right? Now, if you're in a situation where the opposite sex is talking to you and so on and so forth, then not all of this is going to be applied, obviously. Then with that, you have to lower your gaze. Now, you have to lower your gaze. So if you're a man and a woman is talking to you, then it's from good character that as she's talking to you, then you put your head down. Now, that you put your head down, you lower your gaze. Not that she's talking to you and then you all up in her face. What you say? How it is? Yeah, really? What happened? What else? No, you lower your gaze. You lower your gaze. Okay? Likewise for the woman, if a man is talking to you, lower your gaze. However, if someone from the same sex is talking to you, then you face them and you turn your body towards them. Now, you turn your body towards them. And this is in showing them that you have a respect for them and giving them their rights of dealing with them as you would want to be dealt with. No one wants to feel like you're talking to someone and that person is just totally not paying attention because their body language says they're not paying attention, because they're looking over here, they're looking over there, they're not, it doesn't seem like they're listening. You know what I'm saying? That's a bad feeling that you're saying something and it's important and you feel as if the person that you're talking to is not paying you any attention. So out of respect for them and out of maintaining that good connection and relationship with them and expression of affection and mutual respect, then when you're being addressed, turn to a person. Now, turn to them physically, and the Shaykh he mentions, but this is required. But the most complete meaning of turning to them means that you turn to them not only physically, not only externally, but also you turn to them internally, that you're paying attention, right? Because again, a person could be talking to you and you could turn your attention to them, right? Meaning that physically, your body and your mannerisms, physically, that you're paying attention because you turn to them. But internally, you could be daydreaming. You're not even paying attention to what they're saying. You look like you're paying attention, but in your mind, you're thinking about something else. Okay? This is not good. So turn to them, meaning turn to them physically and pay attention. The sixth affair, and that is in his statement, وَلَا تُقَاطِعْهُ, and do not cut them off. If a person is talking, then it is rude to interrupt them while they are speaking, to cut them off by talking while they are talking, or to interrupt their statement with your statement, cutting them off. This is not good. So what is meant by مقاطعة يعني هي مبادرة المتكلم بالكلام قبل تمام كلامه. It is to interrupt a person by speaking before they was done saying what they had to say. Let a person say what they have to say, and then say whatever it is you have to say. And for many individuals, this is something they have to work on. This is something they have to put effort into. They have to put effort into training themselves to be patient and letting a person say what they have to say before they speak. So again, not all of these affairs that are mentioned are affairs that we may all have a firm grasp and grip over them, but are things that we have to work on, and some of the aspects are things we have to work on. But while knowing what needs to be worked on, then this is a good step in working on it. You understand? By being able to identify the problem, as they say, that's the first step in solving a problem. And the last affair, as related and linked to good character and good behavior and good mannerisms when speaking and having a conversation, then that is inside of his statement, وَلَا تَتَقَدَّمْ بَيْنَ يَدِ الْأَكْبَرِ بِالْكَلَامِ, and do not speak and put yourself in speaking and speak before the one who is akbar, the one who is bigger than you, the one who is bigger than you in speech. Now, and what is meant by akbar, the Shaykh is going to explain. لأن الشرع حفظ للكبير حقه, because the Sharia, because the legislation, it preserves the right of the one who is greater, meaning either because they're older or because they're greater in status. This is what is meant by akbar. Now, so akbar doesn't necessarily always mean older, doesn't necessarily always mean you're elder. It could mean you're elder, or could mean one who has a greater status. Now, depending on the situation. But وَمِنْهُ, and from it, from that which the legislation, it preserves حقه في الكلام. It preserves the right of the elder or the one of higher status. It preserves their right as relates to speech, right? Because when given a situation where all is equal and everyone can issue a statement, then the one who is older or the one who has a higher status, then it is their right to speak first. It is their right to speak first. Okay? ألا يتقدم بين يده. So no one should jump ahead of him and speak, because that's his right to speak first if he wants to. Now, if he falls back on his right and relinquishes his right and allows someone else to say something, then that's his right to do so. But other than that, then we look to him to say something, because they are the one, they are the one who has the right to make the first statement, or to make the statement, period. فلا يشرع يعني من دونه فلا يشرع من دونه في الكلام فيما قصده. So the one who was younger than him or less status, it's not for them to jump out there and to say something in which that the one who was older or greater status wanted to talk about, wanted to say, right? والكبر نوعان, and what is meant by الكبير, الكبر نوعان. الكبر نوعان. أحدهما, the first of them, كبر أقدار, is that they big in status. What is meant by big in status or bigger in status? كالرئاسة, like a person who is in a position of leadership, whether that is of a country, of a company, of a board, or whatever the case is. A person who is the head, the leader of the board, then you give them first opportunity to speak. The manager, at work and so on and so forth, then they have first opportunity to speak. Let them say what they want to say first, right? And so on and so forth. Don't jump ahead of them. Or when ilm and knowledge, if someone is higher in knowledge than you, then you allow that person to speak. One who is more knowledgeable. Now, especially, listen, when it comes to the affairs of the dunya, if a person was an expert in computers, even though that person was younger than you, If someone came and they had a question about computers, the natural reaction is to be quiet and to let the one who is an expert talk, because they're expert. They know about computers, right? And a person, when it comes to the dunya, this is not even up for debate. A person, yeah, that makes total sense. If a man comes in and he asks about any cars, and we have a mechanic there, right? Then the mechanic is going to be the first one to open his mouth, right? Now, how would it look for me? Someone comes and asks a mechanic a question, and now I jump in, I start talking. No, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know about cars like that. You put me under your hood, it's at your own detriment. And that's a bad decision for you, and even more foolish for me to take on that responsibility. Because that's not my thing. I don't know. I'm gonna mess it up. If you ask me something about it, I don't know to tell you what's right. I don't know. Right? So in that situation, it's only natural, obvious, right, that the mechanic will speak. Like, and this makes total sense when it comes to the dunya. If a doctor is present and someone comes and asks a medical question, wouldn't like I say anything? I don't know. The doctor's going to tell you because they're a doctor. A pharmacist is there. You ask about a drug and the properties of it and what it does and side effects and so on and so forth. Wouldn't like I say something? Now, I might have read the packaging. I may have read the dosage. I may have read on the packaging the potential side effects and so on and so forth. Now, does that make me an authority and now I should speak and the pharmacist is there? Not at all. The pharmacist is there. Let the pharmacist talk. That's their field of expertise. Let them speak. And for me to speak in that situation, right, will seem foolish. You see, I'm the pharmacist. Why you jumping ahead of him and you cutting him off and let him talk? You shut up. Let him talk. Like, this makes sense when it comes to the dunya. Okay. How come when it comes to the deen, our common sense brain go out the window? When it comes to the deen, we lose all common sense now. Stuff that makes sense in dunya don't make sense in deen. So now we have people who are ignoramuses. Of course, now, and then they get mad. Ignoramus get mad when you call them an ignoramus. Person totally jahil, ignorant. They can't distinguish between a ba and a ta and a tha. But they want to talk about complex issues of the deen and then debate with the people of knowledge as relates to the complex intricacies of the deen. Now, want to debate with the people of knowledge when it comes to the complex, intricate issues in the deen. But this person, if you were to ask them, even to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, they can't even recite Surah Al-Fatiha. But yet you want to argue about the complex issues of the deen? You're ignorant. You don't know anything. And then when you're called an ignoramus, you get mad? You understand? What highlights your ignorance is that you don't know when to be quiet. What highlights your ignorance is that you don't know when to be quiet. You don't know how to stay in your lane. Now, just like you will be blamed when it came to the affairs of the dunya by jumping out of your lane, then how much more so should you be blamed when it comes to the affairs of the deen for jumping out of your lane? Now, so when a person is higher in knowledge than you and you're in the presence of them, you don't say anything. Let them speak and deal with and handle whatever the issue is, and it's not for you to utter a statement. And this is from good character. This is from good character. Now, and we find this inside of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, he taught us this, and he emphasizes. The Prophet ﷺ, he said it in a hadith, Kabbir, the older, or the one more in status, whether that be in ilm, whether that be the leader of a tribe, and so on and so forth. You let those who have this status, you let those who are in leadership talk. If you're not in leadership, then it's not for you to say anything, and the leaders are there. If you're not from the managerial a class at a particular field, and the managers are there, then it's not for you to talk. Let the managers deal with it. As they say, that's above your pay grade. That's above your pay grade. So let the managers deal with it. Now, if they ask you a question or they put it in your direction and so on and so forth, then that's different. Then you speak. But other than that, if something comes up and the manager is present, then what's natural is the manager is going to answer. What am I supposed to say something? You're the manager. That's your responsibility. You speak. And this is as relates to the dunya. But so now when it comes to the deen and the sheikh he mentions now, and I want you to really pay attention to this. I want you to pay attention to this because this is as relates to the students of knowledge with the scholars. Okay? The students of knowledge with the scholars. So the students of knowledge are individuals who, when it comes to the deen, they are not described as ignorant. They're not described as ignoramuses as relates to the deen. Because although they're not an alim, they're not a scholar, but they have understanding, they have learned some aspects of the deen. So they have knowledge, they have gathered knowledge about some principles and aspects and that of the religion, but they have not reached that level of knowledge with their ulama. But to reach the level of knowledge where a person is an alim, then they have to what? They have to start as a student, and then that knowledge it compounds and compounds and compounds and compounds and compounds and compounds and compounds in a person until they reach the level of ulama, until they reach the level of an alim. Now, so the person who's a student, they're on the path, they're on the way, but they're not there yet. Okay? So they're not totally ignorant about the issue. They may in fact know about the issue and be very well versed in an issue. However, it is not from good character that if an alim is present, that the student say anything. Now, so the Shaykh he mentions, he says, زجر طلاب العلم عن الكلام بين يد العلماء, that the students of knowledge should be quiet. They should leave off and abandon speech when they're in the presence of the ulama. In the presence of the ulama, they abandon speech. Sheikh Saleh al-Fawzan, if Sheikh Saleh is there, if Sheikh Saleh al-Fawzan is there, I don't care who the student of knowledge is. You're a student. As long as you're in the realm of student, you're a student. Nah? Like PhD or not, I don't care. You a student. If Sheikh Saleh al-Fawzan is there and someone comes and asks about the 5 pillars of Islam, you should be quiet. Don't say anything. Let Sheikh Saleh answer it. Naam. So on and so forth. Naam. Showing respect to the ulama. Sheikh Wasiullah, حفظهم الله تعالى, both him and Sheikh Saleh al-Fawzan. If Sheikh Wasi is there and someone asks about the 6 articles of faith, be quiet. Let Sheikh Wasiullah handle it. Naam. Let Sheikh Wasiullah handle it. And so on and so forth. Sheikh al-Ethiopi, if he's there and someone comes and asks what is the meaning of ihsan, you don't say anything. Let the Sheikh he answer. Naam. Because this is how the student is supposed to be in the presence of the ulama. When the ulama are there, the student don't have nothing to say. Don't have anything to say. Unless the alim addresses you to say something, then you say something. Other than that, that's to the alim. When it comes time to talk and the alim is present, then then what's the default for the student of knowledge is what? No one is talking to me. That's the default for the student of knowledge. Someone comes in and asks a question, the first default for the student of knowledge, once he knows that an alim is in the majlis, is that he ain't talking to me. They come in and ask a question, he ain't talking to me. He's talking to the alim. The alim is going to speak. I don't feel obliged to say anything. Why? Because the alim is here. What you asking me for? And even for the students that have adab, this is what they teach the people. If a person comes and they ask a question, they may come to you, shake your hand, look you in your face, and ask you the question. But as a student of knowledge, and you know that one is greater in knowledge is there, then it is from good adab that you don't answer it. But you look that person back in their face and you tell them, my dear brother, in all due respect, don't ask me, ask the alim, ask the scholar right there. And it could be on the 5, it could be on the 5 pillars of Islam. But tell him, say, my dear brother, don't ask me. An alim is here. Ask him. That's from good manners. You understand? So how much more so now, if a student were to jump out of his lane, that's bad manners. Okay, so now a common person jump out of their lane, and you think that's good manners? Do you think that is something that is prestigious inside of the religion? That is something that the Sharia it points to? You see, we live in a very bad and evil time where people will utilize bad manners, bad and horrible behavior, and then wear that as a badge of honor. Bad behavior, they wear it as a badge of honor. I'm out there talking about the deen. I ain't got no ilm. I'll go in front of the world on social media and run my mouth about the deen. I ain't got no ilm. And that's a badge of honor? I mean, Allah musta'an. Allah musta'an. That's the least you can say about that. Ala kulli hal. Ala kulli hal. For the student of knowledge, when you're in the presence of the ulama, don't say anything. Nobody's talking to you. Even if they're talking to you, they ain't really talking to you. You understand? Even if a person asks you a question, the reality of it is that a person asks a question because they want the best answer. So if they, because they didn't know, ask you, you know that they want the best answer, so you know from that, they ain't talking to you. Ask the alim so-and-so. Even though you're talking to me, in reality, you ain't talking to me because you want the best answer, and alim fulani is going to give you the best answer. Sheikh so-and-so, he's going to give you the best answer. So, let me respectfully point you in the right direction. Okay? This is how the student of knowledge should be. This is how the student of knowledge should be. Respect ilm. Respect those who are above you. Even if it's another student. Even if it's another student that's above you. Perhaps you're a student and you're on a medium, on a medium level, and you have a student that is higher than you, greater than you, right? Or a student who's even on your same level, but you're being asked about something that student knows more about that topic than you. Then you point them where they can get the best answer. Say, ask brother so-and-so. Ask ustaz so-and-so. Ask sheikh so-and-so. Right? So on and so forth. Right? You gotta have manners. You gotta have manners. Really. على كل حال. The ulama, فإن المأمور به شرعا وقت الكلام إليهم, because what is commanded from him legislatively, the student of knowledge, is that he gives the speech to the student. That he refers. Now that's a better term. He refers the speech to the ulama. He leaves it to them to talk, as their responsibility to talk. If an alim is there, it's not my responsibility to say anything. It's the alim's responsibility to talk and to answer the question. Now, the one who's ignorant is his responsibility to ask a question. The one who has knowledge is his responsibility to answer a question. Like, if an alim is in the present, is in the presence, then the responsibility for answering questions is on that alim. Everyone else is absolved. It's on the alim, his responsibility to answer the questions. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Like, and as far as the students, it's not on them to do anything but to sit there and listen and benefit like everybody else. Why? Because an alim is present, and we have to have respect for knowledge of the people of knowledge and the carriers of knowledge. And then the author, he goes into the fifth characteristic, the fifth trait of good behavior. But bithnillahi ta'ala, we will save that to the next class, bithnillahi ta'ala, to next week's class, insha'Allah ta'ala. نتوقف هنا فنقف هنا فنكتفي بهذا القدر، وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. إلا اللقاء. استودعكم الله والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.